You scared me. Sorry. But he didn't sound sorry. Snow hit the restaurant windows so hard that night, I thought the glass might crack before I did. Then the woman at table 7 threw her wine into the millionaire's face. And nobody moved. Not the pianist. Not the couples pretending not to stare. Not even him. I stood near the kitchen doors with a tray pressed against my stomach while red wine dripped slowly from the stranger's jaw onto his expensive black coat. The woman laughed first. A sharp, ugly sound. "Oh my God," she said loudly, looking around the restaurant. "You really don't feel anything, do you?" A few people smiled into their drinks. Someone pulled out a phone. I should have walked away. Instead, I kept staring at him. Maybe because he didn't react. Not even a little. The woman grabbed her purse dramatically and stood from the table. "I can't do this," she snapped. "Dating you feels like sitting across from a machine." Still nothing. No anger. No begging. No defense. The silence around him felt heavier than shouting. Then she leaned closer and delivered the final hit. "No wonder your fiancé left." That landed. I saw it in his eyes. Tiny. Fast. But there. She stormed toward the exit while people whispered behind folded menus. The man stayed seated alone beside the frozen window. Like humiliation was something he was already used to carrying. "Emma?" I flinched. My manager Owen pointed toward table 7. "Clean it up." Of course. I grabbed a towel and forced my legs forward. The closer I got, the more details I noticed. Early 30s maybe. Dark hair slightly messy now from the wine. Watch worth more than my yearly rent. But his hands? They looked tense. Like he was holding himself together manually. "I'm sorry about that," I muttered quietly while reaching for the broken wine glass. "Don't be." His voice surprised me. "Oh, calm." Too calm. I glanced up. Big mistake. His eyes looked exhausted in a way sleep couldn't fix. "You didn't throw it," he added. Something in my chest tightened unexpectedly. Most customers used me like background noise. This man looked directly at me when he spoke. I nodded awkwardly and wiped the table fast. Behind me, 2 waitresses whispered near the bar. "That's Adrien Laurent. The tech guy." "Yeah. $1 billion company or something." I almost dropped the towel. Adrien Laurent. Even I knew that name. Half the city did. Rich. Untouchable. Cold, according to social media. The kind of man people either worshipped or hated online. And tonight? Everyone was watching him like entertainment. "You want another drink?" I asked carefully. He looked toward the snowy window instead of me. "No." Pause. "Actually." For the first time his expression shifted slightly. "Do you have hot chocolate?" I blinked. "You serious?" That almost sounded like a laugh from him. "Almost." "Tough night," he said. I don't know why that line affected me. Maybe because it sounded honest. Not polished. Not rich. Just tired. "Yeah," I said softly. "I get those." For 1 second his eyes met mine again. And suddenly I regretted saying that. Because now he looked curious. Not flirtatious. Not arrogant. Just attentive. Dangerous in a completely different way. "I'll bring it," I said quickly. I escaped into the kitchen before the silence between us became something else. The cooks were already gossiping. Guy got destroyed. She humiliated him. Rich people drama. I ignored them and made the hot chocolate myself. Extra whipped cream. No idea why. Maybe because Christmas Eve made lonely people do stupid things. When I carried the mug back out, the restaurant had gotten louder. More phones. More whispers. Adrien sat exactly the same way. Still alone. Still composed. Like if he moved too fast, something inside him might spill out. I placed the mug carefully onto the table. And immediately knocked it over. Hot chocolate splashed across the tablecloth. Straight onto his sleeve. Oh my God. My stomach dropped. "I'm so sorry." I reached for napkins too quickly and almost slipped. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. But Adrien caught my wrist before I fell. Not aggressively. Just instinctively. Warm fingers around my hand. "You okay?" I froze. That was it. 2 words. "You okay?" Nobody had asked me that in months. Not after Marcus emptied our joint account and disappeared. Not after my cousin Danielle moved into my apartment temporarily and started acting like I was the guest. Not after I started working double shifts just to survive Christmas. I stared at him too long. His grip loosened immediately. "Sorry," he said quietly. "No, I laughed once, awkward and breathless. "I'm fine." What? Very obvious lie. He noticed. I could tell. But he didn't push. That made it worse somehow. I cleaned the table while my cheeks burned with embarrassment. You don't have to stay open late for me, he said after a moment. We close in 30 minutes. You should go home. I almost smiled at that. Some of us don't have penthouses waiting. The second the words left my mouth, I regretted them. Too personal. Too bitter. But instead of getting offended, Adrian looked down at the ruined sleeve of his coat. Then he said quietly, "Sometimes expensive places are the loneliest ones." I stopped moving. The restaurant noise faded weirdly around us. For a second it felt like Christmas disappeared entirely. Just me. And him. And something painfully familiar sitting between us. Before I could answer, Owen shouted my name from across the room. "Emma Kitchen. Now." I apologized quickly and hurried away. The second I pushed through the kitchen doors, Owen grabbed my arm. "Be careful around that guy." "What does that mean?" "It means rich men with bad headlines usually bring trouble." I frowned. "He seems fine." Owen gave me a look. "Men like that always seem fine." That sentence followed me for the next hour. Even while stacking dishes. Even while pretending not to glance toward table 7. Adrian stayed there long after his drink was gone. Not scrolling on his phone. Not calling anyone. Just sitting quietly while snow covered the city outside. Like he didn't want to go anywhere else. Near midnight, the restaurant finally emptied. Chairs flipped onto tables. Lights dimmed. Christmas music turned softer. I carried trash bags toward the back hallway when I heard voices near the office. I almost walked past. Then I heard Adrian's name. "Worked perfectly," a male voice whispered. I stopped instantly. Another voice laughed quietly. "The video's already everywhere." My grip tightened on the trash bag. "Video?" "The investors wanted him embarrassed before Monday's board vote," the man continued. "Now they have it." Cold spread through my stomach. I stepped closer carefully. The office door wasn't fully closed. Inside, one of the restaurant owners stood beside a woman in a white coat. The same woman from the blind date. My pulse jumped. She looked irritated now instead of emotional. "You sure he suspects nothing?" she asked. "He never does," the man replied. "That's his weakness." I stopped breathing. This wasn't a breakup. It was planned. Every second of it. The wine. The humiliation. The public scene. All of it. The woman crossed her arms. "I still think recording him was risky. The board needed proof he's unstable." Unstable. My chest tightened hard. Suddenly I remembered Adrian sitting silently by the window while strangers laughed at him. Not defending himself. Not reacting. Like he already knew nobody would believe him anyway. A floorboard creaked beneath my shoe. The voices inside stopped immediately. Panic shot through me. I backed away fast and nearly dropped the trash bag. Then the office door opened. I turned the corner before they could see me. Heart slamming violently. Footsteps approached behind me. Then stopped. I didn't move. Didn't breathe. After a few seconds, the footsteps disappeared. I stayed frozen beside the storage shelves until my hands stopped shaking. What the hell had I just heard? My phone buzzed suddenly in my apron pocket. A message from Danielle. "Don't forget rent tomorrow." "No, Merry Christmas." "No, are you okay?" "Just rent." I stared at the screen numbly. Then another message appeared. Marcus posted a photo. Curiosity burned before common sense could stop me. I opened it. Marcus smiling beside another woman in matching Christmas pajamas. My best Christmas yet, red heart. I laughed quietly. Not because it was funny. Because if I didn't laugh I might break something. "Rough night?" The voice behind me nearly made me jump out of my skin. I spun around. Adrian stood at the end of the hallway near the back exit. Still wearing the stained coat. Still watching me too carefully. I locked my phone instantly. His eyes moved briefly toward my clenched hand. "You looked upset." "I'm fine." There's that word again. I swallowed hard. Snow blew inside when someone opened the back door outside. Cold air rushed through the hallway. For a second neither of us spoke. Then Adrian glanced toward the office behind me. Something unreadable crossed his face. Like he knew more than he was saying. Or maybe suspected it. "You should go home," I said softly. This time his expression changed slightly. Almost sad. "You first." I don't know why that affected me. Maybe because nobody had said things like that to me in a long time. Not sincerely. I looked away first. Dangerous mistake. Because when I looked back at him again, I realized he wasn't watching me like a waitress anymore. And somehow, that felt like the beginning of something terrible. I almost sent him a warning text. That was the stupid part. I didn't even have his number, But the thought stayed in my head the entire walk home through the snow. Tell him what you heard. Tell him the blind date was fake. Tell him somebody set him up. Instead, I unlocked my apartment door and walked straight into another disaster. Danielle sat on my couch wearing my sweater. Not similar. What? She looked up from her phone without shame. You're late. I closed the door slowly. Why are you wearing my clothes again? She rolled her eyes immediately. Oh my God, Emma, it's just a sweater. The apartment smelled like expensive perfume and burnt candles I definitely didn't buy. My stomach turned. Not because of the sweater. Because Marcus used to buy those exact candles. I looked toward the kitchen. 2 wine glasses in the sink. Danielle noticed too late. It's not what you think. I laughed once under my breath. That sound again. That empty one. Really? I asked quietly. Then be creative. Surprise me. She stood up fast. You're acting dramatic. Marcus was here? Silence. That answered enough. I dropped my keys onto the counter harder than intended. Danielle crossed her arms defensively. You broke up months ago. He stole my savings. He said you pushed him away. I stared at her. Not angry yet. Just tired in a dangerous way. He said that. You were always working. I smiled. That seemed to make her nervous, because she suddenly stopped acting confident. You know what's funny? I said softly. I actually believed you were the good one between us. Emma? No, seriously. That's the embarrassing part. I walked past her toward my bedroom before I said something unforgivable. Then she hit me with the final knife. He's happier now. My hand stopped on the bedroom door. Not because it hurt. Because part of me believed her. I locked myself inside without answering. A minute later my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost ignored it. Then another message arrived immediately after. Unknown, you forgot your scarf. I froze. The dark green scarf. I left it at the restaurant hallway last night. Another message appeared. Unknown, I can send someone to return it. No name. No explanation. Still, I somehow knew exactly who it was. I stared at the screen too long before typing back. Me, how did you get my number? Typing. Stopped. Typing again. Unknown, Owen gave it to me after I annoyed him for 10 minutes. Against my will, I smiled slightly. Then immediately hated myself for it. Me, that's concerning. Unknown, I've been told worse this week. I shouldn't have replied again. I knew that. But loneliness makes bad decisions feel reasonable after midnight. Me, your date had good aim at least. 3 dots appeared instantly. Then disappeared. Then came back again. Unknown, you watched that whole thing? Me, hard not to. Half the restaurant did. Long pause. Unknown, must have looked pathetic. That message sat on my screen longer than it should have. Because there was no arrogance in it. No billionaire ego. Just something flat and honest. I typed 3 different replies before deleting all of them. Finally. Me, it looked planned. Nothing happened after that. No typing bubble. No response. I waited anyway. 10 seconds. 30. A full minute. Then my phone lit up again. Unknown, what exactly did you hear? My pulse jumped. Too fast. I stared at the message while my brain screamed at me not to get involved. Rich people problems were dangerous. Men like Adrian Laurent lived in worlds where people disappeared professionally, financially, socially. Meanwhile, I was struggling to pay rent in an apartment with broken heating. This was not my business. So why did I type back anyway? Me, probably nothing. Unknown, that doesn't sound convincing. Me, maybe don't trust women who insult you publicly while cameras magically appear. See. No reply after that. Just seen. I threw my phone onto the bed harder than necessary. Why did that bother me? Then it hit me. Because I wanted him to answer. That realization irritated me enough to turn my phone completely off. The next morning, snow covered the city in thick white silence. Christmas Day. Most people were opening gifts. I was counting tips before another double shift. Owen handed me coffee while unlocking the restaurant doors. You look exhausted. Festive season. You look homicidal. More accurate. That made him snort quietly. But his expression changed when he noticed my phone lighting up repeatedly on the counter. Unknown number. Again. I ignored it. Owen raised an eyebrow. You got a secret admirer now? More like a temporary psychological problem. Ah, so definitely a man. I almost smiled. Almost. The lunch shift stayed slow because of Christmas. Families came and went. Couples posted photos near the decorated tree. Fake happiness everywhere. Around 5 in the evening, the restaurant doors opened again. And him. Of course. Adrian walked inside alone wearing a charcoal coat dusted with snow. Conversations lowered immediately. People recognized him now. Not because of business magazines. Because the blind date video had exploded online overnight. Humiliation traveled fast on Christmas apparently. He noticed the staring too. I could tell by the slight tension in his jaw. But instead of leaving, he walked calmly toward table 7 again. The exact same table. That shouldn't have affected me. It did. Owen leaned toward me quietly. Please tell me he's not your psychological problem. I barely know him. That sounded judgmental. That's because it was. I grabbed a menu before he could continue. The second I approached table 7, Adrian looked up. And for one annoying second, the noise around us faded again. You came back, I said before thinking. His mouth moved slightly. Not fully a smile. Apparently I enjoy public suffering. That's unhealthy. I'm exploring new hobbies. Okay. That almost made me laugh. I placed the menu down carefully. You know everyone's recording you now, right? I noticed. You still stayed. This time he looked directly at me. You still walked over here. My chest reacted first. Stupidly. I looked away and pulled out my notepad. What can I get you? You decide. That's risky. I'm having a risky week. I shook my head softly and walked toward the kitchen before he could see my expression. Why was talking to him easy? That felt suspicious. An hour later my shift finally ended. Most customers had gone home for Christmas dinners. Adrian was still there. Laptop open now. Unreadable spreadsheets glowing across the screen. His phone buzzed repeatedly beside his coffee. He ignored every call. Every single one. Something about that unsettled me. People with power usually answered immediately. He looked like he wanted the entire world to disappear. I should have left. Instead, I grabbed my coat and sat across from him. His eyes lifted slowly from the laptop. You're off the clock. You look depressing. That bad? Honestly? Worse. A real laugh escaped him this time. Short. Surprised. Like he forgot how. Then silence settled between us. Not awkward. Just careful. Snow drifted outside the windows while soft Christmas music played through the nearly empty restaurant. I stared at the untouched whiskey near his hand. You hate it here, I said quietly. His brows pulled together slightly. The restaurant? No. This version of your life. That hit something. I saw it instantly. He leaned back slowly in the chair. You always analyze strangers this much? Occupational hazard. You're a waitress. Exactly. People confess weird things around tired women carrying coffee. That earned another faint smile. Then his phone buzzed again. Calling, Victor. He declined it instantly. Not annoyed. More like exhausted. Your brother? I asked carefully. His eyes flicked toward me sharply. You know about Victor? Only the part where he's apparently ruining your Christmas. That surprised him. Good. For once, I wanted him unsettled instead of me. You heard more than you admitted, he said quietly. I looked down at the table. Maybe I should have lied. Instead I asked, why didn't you defend yourself last night? That question stayed between us longer than expected. Finally he exhaled slowly. Because sometimes people already decided who you are before you speak. Something inside me went still. I understood that sentence too well. Before I could stop myself, words started spilling out. About Marcus. About the stolen savings account. About Danielle moving into my apartment afterward like she won a competition. About spending months pretending I wasn't embarrassed. Adrian didn't interrupt once. Didn't offer fake sympathy either. He just listened. Carefully. Like every word mattered. And somehow that felt more intimate than flirting. I should have noticed earlier, I admitted quietly. The money disappearing. The lying. I just kept making excuses for him. You loved him. I shrugged weakly. Maybe I loved who I thought he was. Adrian looked down at his untouched drink. Yeah, he said softly. That'll do it. The way he said it. Not dramatic. Not polished. Just personal. Like he was accidentally talking about himself too. I studied him more carefully then. The expensive watch. The controlled posture. The exhaustion he couldn't fully hide. You still haven't told me your name, I said. He went strangely still. For half a second I thought he might lie. Then, Adrian. I nodded slowly. And the last name? Silence. Then he answered quietly. Laurent. My entire body locked up. No way. I knew that name. Not from gossip pages. from somewhere worse. Months ago, Marcus used to obsess over a company merger connected to Loron Technologies. Late nights, secret calls, sudden cash. My stomach dropped hard. Because suddenly Marcus stealing my money didn't feel random anymore. And Adrian was still watching me when I whispered, "Wait." I ignored his messages for 3 days. Not because I wanted to. Because every time my phone lit up with his name, something uneasy moved through my chest. Adrian Loron. Not just some lonely stranger from table 7. Not just the man with tired eyes and expensive coats. A millionaire. A powerful one. The kind of man connected to people like Marcus. The kind of man who changed entire lives without noticing. And somehow I had sat across from him talking about my broken savings account like we were equals. Humiliating. Absolutely humiliating. So I stopped replying. That said enough. The problem? He didn't stop showing up. Day 1 he came in around lunch. Ordered coffee. Didn't bother me. Just sat near the window working silently while his untouched phone buzzed every few minutes. Day 2 same thing. Except this time he left before I finished my shift. No note. No weird pressure. Just a ridiculous tip folded beneath the receipt. I almost threw it away out of pride. Almost. Day 3 snow covered the sidewalks again by evening. The restaurant felt overheated and loud. Christmas decorations suddenly looked exhausting instead of festive. I carried drinks toward table 4 when Owen leaned beside me quietly. "Your billionaire's back." "He's not my billionaire." I hate that sound you make." Owen smirked slightly and disappeared toward the kitchen. I refused to look toward the window. For almost 7 whole minutes. Then curiosity ruined my dignity. Adrian sat alone again. Dark sweater tonight instead of a suit. Laptop closed. Watching the snowfall instead of working. He looked less polished somehow. More human. That annoyed me too. I focused on other tables. Ignored the way my phone vibrated in my apron pocket. Unknown number. Again. I didn't open it. Another vibration immediately followed. Unknown. You're better at avoiding people than I expected. I shoved the phone deeper into my pocket. A customer waved me over before I could answer. Good. Distraction. Unfortunately, distraction lasted exactly 4 minutes. Because when I turned around again, Adrian stood directly behind me. Close enough for me to catch the scent of cold air and cedar from his coat. "You're ignoring me professionally now?" he asked quietly. I nearly dropped the tray. "You can't sneak up on people like that." That sounded guilty. That sounded expensive. One corner of his mouth moved slightly. Not a full smile. Just enough to make him look dangerous. "I brought your scarf back," he said. I blinked. Right. The green scarf. He held it loosely in one hand now. Folded carefully. Why did that detail matter? I hated that it mattered. "You could have left it with Owen." You stopped answering. There it was. Not accusing. Not dramatic. Just honest enough to make avoidance harder. I grabbed the scarf too quickly. Our fingers brushed. Tiny contact. Still enough to throw off my breathing for 1 stupid second. "Thanks," I muttered. "You thought I was connected to your ex." Straight to the point. Of course. I looked around instinctively. 2 waitresses were already pretending not to watch us. "Can we not do this here?" "So there is a this." I exhaled sharply. "You being Adrian Loron changes things." "How?" I laughed quietly under my breath. "You seriously don't know?" "No. I'm asking." That answer caught me off guard. Not defensive. Actually asking. I lowered my voice. "People like you don't notice damage the same way normal people do." His expression shifted slightly. "That sounds personal." "It is personal." A tense silence stretched between us. Then Owen called my name from the bar. Perfect timing. I stepped back immediately. "I'm working." Adrian nodded once. But before he walked away, he said quietly, "I'm not Marcus." That line followed me the entire night. Which irritated me because he wasn't supposed to matter enough for that. Around closing time, the restaurant finally emptied again. Except for him. Still there. Still impossible to ignore. I wiped down nearby tables aggressively while pretending not to notice. "You know," Adrian said casually, "most people take the hint faster." I kept wiping the table. "Most people don't own tech companies." "That's your issue with me?" "No." I stopped moving finally. "That's the problem. I don't even know what my issue with you is." For the first time since meeting him, he looked genuinely thrown off. Not cold. Not controlled. Just tired. "I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable," he admitted quietly. And somehow that was worse than arrogance would have been. Because it sounded sincere. I sat across from him before I could rethink it. Bad decision. His eyes lifted immediately. You always make impulsive choices after midnight? He asked. Only emotionally damaging ones. That explains talking to me. I stared at him. Then, against my will, I laughed. An actual laugh. Small. Still real. Something softened in his expression when he heard it. That scared me more than flirting would have. Outside, snow drifted slowly past the windows while employees cleaned the kitchen in the background. The restaurant suddenly felt too quiet. Adrian turned his untouched coffee cup slowly between his hands. You asked me why I didn't defend myself that night, he said. I stayed silent. My fiancée used to say the same thing. There was again. That strange heaviness in his voice whenever relationships came up. I looked at him carefully. You were engaged? For almost 2 years. What happened? A humorless smile crossed his face. I kept choosing work. That's it. No. He looked down briefly. That's just the cleaner version. Something about that answer felt honest in an ugly way. Not designed to make himself look better. I thought if I built enough success first, he continued slowly, everything else would survive around it automatically. And it didn't. No. Simple answer. Still brutal. I leaned back slightly. She left. She tried not to. That sentence hit harder than expected. Because regret sounded different when it came quietly. No self-pity. No dramatic performance. Just a man realizing too late what mattered. I missed birthdays, he admitted. Trips. Conversations. Entire months emotionally. The restaurant lights reflected softly against the window beside him. For the first time I stopped seeing him as some untouchable rich man. He looked lonely. Not social media lonely. Real lonely. The kind that sits across from people and still feels isolated. I used to think money fixed everything too, I admitted before I could stop myself. His eyes lifted toward mine again. But I shrugged weakly. Turns out betrayal still works on poor people. Something unreadable moved across his face. Not pity. Thank God. I don't think you're weak, he said quietly. I looked away immediately. Because that sentence landed somewhere dangerous. You don't know me. Maybe not. Pause. But invisible people usually don't survive what you survived. That almost broke me. Not dramatically. Not tears. Just, my throat tightened suddenly. Because invisible. That was exactly the word. Marcus ignored me until he needed money. Danielle ignored me unless rent was due. Customers forgot my name 2 seconds after ordering. Even my own life felt temporary lately. I stared down at the table. I think betrayal changes people permanently, I admitted softly. Adrian didn't interrupt, so I kept going. I used to be louder. I swallowed. I used to walk into rooms without apologizing for existing. His eyes stayed on me carefully. And now? I laughed once. But it sounded thin. Now I double-checked before speaking. Silence. Heavy this time. Not awkward. Just honest in a way neither of us seemed prepared for. Then the restaurant doors opened suddenly. Cold wind rushed inside. And my entire body stiffened instantly. Marcus. Of course. Perfect timing like always. He walked in smiling casually like he belonged there. Expensive jacket. That same confident grin I used to mistake for charm. Then his eyes landed on Adrian. The smile changed immediately. Smaller. Sharper. Well, Marcus said slowly. That explains a lot. I stood up fast. What are you doing here? You blocked my number. That was intentional. Marcus ignored that completely and glanced toward Adrian again. Recognition flashed across his face. Too much recognition. My stomach dropped. You know each other? I asked carefully. Neither man answered immediately. That silence told me enough. Marcus shoved his hands into his pockets casually. I used to do consulting work connected to Lauron Technologies. Used to. What? I could hear it. Adrian's jaw tightened slightly. Interesting. Very interesting. Marcus looked back at me with fake amusement. So this is what's happening now? There is no this, I snapped. Emma, come on. He laughed softly. You really think a guy like him notices waitresses long-term? Adrian's expression darkened instantly. Marcus kept going anyway. Cruel people always did. You're still just a waitress. The sentence hit like ice water straight down my spine. Not because it was new. Because part of me had been afraid Adrian secretly thought the same thing. The restaurant suddenly felt too warm. Too small. Marcus stepped closer. I came to apologize. That wasn't an apology. You know what I mean. No, I said quietly. Actually, I don't anymore. For 1 second, something angry flashed across Marcus's face. There. That version of him. The real one. I made mistakes, he muttered. But you act like your life ended. I stared at him in disbelief. Then I did something unexpected. I got calm. Completely calm. And for the first time since Marcus destroyed my life. He looked nervous instead of me. I wasted 2 years begging someone to value me, I said softly. Marcus opened his mouth. I cut him off first. I'm not doing that anymore. The silence afterward felt electric. Marcus looked toward Adrian again like he wanted backup. Instead, Adrian leaned back slowly in his chair and said, "You should leave." Not loud. Not threatening. Somehow worse. Marcus scoffed. You think she belongs in your world? Adrian's eyes never left his. I think she deserves better than yours. Marcus laughed harshly and shook his head before walking back toward the door. But right before leaving he looked at me one last time. You'll figure it out eventually, he said coldly. Men like him don't stay. Then he walked out into the snow. The restaurant went silent again. My hands trembled slightly under the table. Not from sadness. From rage. Years of swallowing disrespect suddenly tasted disgusting. Adrian watched me carefully. You okay? I looked toward the snowy window. Then down at my waitress uniform. Then at the reflection staring back at me in the dark glass. Tired eyes. Exhausted posture. A woman surviving instead of living. And suddenly, something inside me shifted quietly. Permanently. By the time I got home that night, I already knew. My old life was over. I deleted Marcus's apology without reading the full message. That was new. Old me would have stared at every word searching for hidden love inside bad behavior. Now, I blocked his number while brushing my teeth. Simple. Quiet. Done. The strange part wasn't the anger disappearing. It was the extra space left behind afterward. For the first time in months, my brain felt still. Not happy. Just clear. And once things became clear, I started noticing how much of my life had been built around surviving other people. So I stopped. Stopped crying in shower corners. Stopped rereading old messages. Stopped explaining myself to people already committed to misunderstanding me. Danielle kept texting anyway. You're being childish. Marcus misses you. You're overreacting. I muted her too. That silence felt expensive. Like I finally bought something for myself. 3 nights later, I sat cross-legged on my bed wearing oversized pajamas while watching free online business lectures on my laptop. The instructor kept talking about investment structures. Half the words sounded fake. Still, I kept taking notes. Because something ugly had settled inside me recently. I was tired of being the least informed person in every room. My apartment stayed unusually quiet. Danielle hadn't come home yet. Good. I clicked pause on the lecture and glanced at my reflection in the dark window. Hair tied back messily. Glasses slipping down my nose. Notebook balanced against my knees. I barely recognized myself. Not because I looked different. Because I looked focused. My phone buzzed suddenly. Unknown, you vanished again. I stared at the message for a second. Then typed back before overthinking. Me, some people work for a living. 3 dots appeared instantly. Unknown, rude. Me, accurate. Unknown, you always this difficult? I smiled despite myself. Dangerous development. Me, only with emotionally unavailable millionaires. Long pause. Then, unknown, fair. That answer caught me off guard enough to make me reread it twice. No defense. No ego. Just fair. I closed the chat quickly after that. Because lately, talking to Adrian too long started doing strange things to my concentration. The next morning, I walked into work wearing black fitted pants instead of my usual loose jeans. Nothing dramatic. Still, Owen noticed immediately. He nearly dropped a tray. Well, damn. I frowned. What? You look like you're about to fire somebody? That's oddly specific. It's the shoes. I glanced down. Heels. Tiny ones. Still enough to change how I walked. Owen crossed his arms suspiciously. You dating somebody secretly? No. You joined a cult? Also no. I grabbed coffee mugs from the counter. What's with the interrogation? You look different. I shrugged casually. But inside, that sentence landed somewhere important. Different. Maybe I was. By evening, the restaurant filled with low music and expensive perfume again. And right on schedule. Adrian walked in. Except tonight he stopped near the entrance after spotting me. Actually stopped. His eyes moved slowly over me before he spoke. That shouldn't have affected me. Unfortunately, my nervous system disagreed completely. You changed your hair, he said finally. I touched it instinctively. Just tied differently. You noticed that? I noticed things. That sounds threatening. A real laugh escaped him suddenly. Not the restrained, polite version. An actual laugh. Warm. Unexpected. Every waitress near the bar immediately looked over in shock. Apparently rich, brooding men laughing was rare. Adrian noticed the attention too and shook his head slightly. This place is judgmental. You became local entertainment after Winegate. That cannot be what people are calling it. It absolutely is. He rubbed his forehead slowly like life exhausted him. That's horrific. You survived. Barely. I handed him a menu even though we both knew he wouldn't open it. You're smiling more lately, he said casually. Dangerous topic. I'm sleeping more. Lie. I blinked. What? You've had dark circles every day this week. That irritated me for no logical reason. Why are you observing my face like a detective? Why are you avoiding the question? I crossed my arms. See? This is the billionaire problem. His eyebrow lifted slightly. That's a category now? You people think money gives you access to conversations. His expression shifted carefully. Not offended. Interested. And what exactly qualifies as you people? The kind who solve problems by throwing resources at them. He leaned slightly against the table. You think I do that? I think you're used to control. Pause. Then unexpectedly. You're not wrong. That answer disarmed me immediately. I hated how often honesty worked on me. He studied me quietly for another second. What changed? He asked. I pretended not to understand. You stopped apologizing before every sentence. The comment hit too accurately. I looked away first. Adrian noticed. Of course he did. Before I could answer, his phone vibrated sharply across the table. One notification. Then another. Then 5 more rapidly. His entire expression changed. Not panic exactly. Something tighter. Controlled damage. I caught a glimpse of the screen accidentally. Laurent stocks drop after internal leak. Another headline immediately followed. CEO instability concerns grow. My stomach sank. Adrian? He locked the phone instantly. Too fast. I'm fine. That looked very not fine. He stood up suddenly and grabbed his coat. Conversation over. Classic. You don't have to do that, I said. Do what? Disappear every time something feels real. That stopped him. For 1 second, something conflicted crossed his face. Like he wanted to answer honestly but didn't fully trust himself to do it. Then his jaw tightened again. I have to handle this. There it is. What? The control thing. His eyes narrowed slightly. You think this is about ego? I think you carry everything alone because it makes you feel necessary. Silence. Sharp silence. Oops. Maybe too accurate. But instead of getting angry, Adrian looked tired. Dangerously tired. You make people uncomfortable, he admitted quietly. I blinked. Why? Because you notice things they spend years hiding. That line sat heavily between us. Then he left. Just like that. No dramatic exit. No flirting. Only tension trailing behind him like smoke. I watched snow blow through the entrance after the door closed. And weirdly, I missed him immediately, which was deeply annoying. Later that night, the internet exploded. Customers kept whispering about Laurent Technologies. Rumors spread fast. Bankruptcy. Internal betrayal. Secret affairs. Board investigations. Most of it sounded exaggerated. But one thing bothered me. The leaks were too specific. Private information. Internal schedules. Personal emails. Whoever was targeting Adrian had access from inside. Close inside. Near closing time, I carried trash bags toward the alley behind the restaurant. Snow crunched softly beneath my boots. The city looked frozen solid. Then voices echoed sharply near the parking area. Male voices. Angry ones. I slowed immediately. Don't act surprised now, someone snapped. I recognized Adrian instantly. But his voice sounded different tonight. Rougher. Uncontrolled. I stepped closer carefully behind the back wall. Another man stood near him beside a black car. Same dark hair. Same sharp jawline. Younger. The resemblance hit immediately. Brothers. You're paranoid, the younger one said coldly. And you're sloppy. You think everything is betrayal lately. Adrian laughed once. But there was nothing warm in it. That's because somebody keeps leaking my life online. The younger brother stepped closer aggressively. You already destroyed the company yourself. Really? Adrian shot back. We're pretending you had nothing to do with this now? The air between them felt poisonous. Not simple sibling tension. Years of damage. The younger brother looked furious enough to shake. You always think you're smarter than everybody. No, Adrian said quietly. Just smarter than you. That landed hard. The younger brother's face changed instantly. Pure hatred. Not temporary anger. Something older. Something personal. You don't deserve that company, he snapped. And you don't deserve loyalty. The silence afterward terrified me. Because Adrian looked genuinely blindsided by that sentence. Like part of him already suspected the truth. But hearing it out loud still cut deep. Snow fell harder around them. Neither moved. Then the younger brother spoke again. Oh, Cole. You should have let the board remove you months ago. Adrian stepped forward suddenly. Fast enough to make me flinch behind the wall. And you should have stopped pretending this was about business. The younger brother smiled then. Not pleasantly. You still don't get it. Something about the way he said that made my stomach twist. Because this wasn't just corporate sabotage anymore. This felt personal. Family-level personal. The younger brother glanced toward the restaurant suddenly. Toward me. My breath caught instantly. Did he see me? For one horrifying second, our eyes almost met through the snowfall. Then Adrian turned slightly, blocking his view accidentally. Go home, Victor, Adrian said quietly. Victor. The name settled heavily in my chest. Victor looked at his brother one last time. Then he said something that made my blood run cold. You have no idea what she already told us. Adrian's expression changed immediately. Confusion. Then alarm. Who? Victor didn't answer. He got into the car instead. And drove away into the snow. Leaving Adrian standing alone in the freezing alley. Looking shaken for the first time since I met him. I know about Victor. The words left my mouth before I could reconsider them. Adrian looked up sharply from the restaurant table. Too sharply. For half a second I saw actual panic in his face. Then it disappeared behind control again. What exactly do you know? He asked quietly. Rain hit the restaurant windows hard that night. Different from snow. Angrier somehow. I slid into the chair across from him slowly. Enough to know your family dinners probably need security. That almost earned a smile. Almost. But exhaustion won instead. Adrian rubbed both hands over his face briefly before leaning back again. He looked terrible tonight. Not physically. Worse. Like somebody had been slowly removing pieces of him for months. The restaurant was nearly empty after midnight. Only soft jazz music and the sound of dishes clinking somewhere in the kitchen. I lowered my voice. He said somebody already talked. Adrian's jaw tightened immediately. I know. You know who? No. Too fast. What? Not a full lie maybe. But definitely incomplete. I watched him carefully. You don't trust people much, do you? A humorless laugh escaped him. My younger brother is helping investors destroy my company. Fair point. I looked down at the table briefly. Then back at him. Why? That question sat heavily between us. Because suddenly this wasn't business gossip anymore. This was family. Adrian stared at the untouched whiskey near his hand. He always thought I got everything first, he said finally. Attention. Approval. Control. And did you? Another pause. Probably. Honest again. That dangerous honesty. It still doesn't explain this, I said. No. For the first time, anger cracked through his calm. Small but sharp. He wants the board to remove me before the merger vote next month. The blind date thing was part of that? His expression darkened instantly. Yes. My stomach twisted. I already knew. Still, hearing it confirmed felt uglier somehow. The woman? I asked carefully. Celeste. His voice flattened slightly on her name. She was connected to Victor? Adrian nodded once. Victor introduced us months ago. Cold spread through my chest slowly. Months. Not random sabotage. Planned sabotage. Calculated. How long has this been happening? He looked toward the rain-covered window. I honestly don't know anymore. That answer sounded terrifyingly real. Not dramatic. Just exhausted confusion. I studied him quietly. Then something clicked suddenly. Your fiancée. His eyes shifted back toward me instantly. What about her? I leaned forward slightly. The way you talk about her, it sounds like Victor was involved somehow. Silence. Long silence. Too long. There it was. Adrian looked away first. That told me enough. Oh my God. It's complicated. That usually means terrible. A bitter smile crossed his face briefly. Accurate. Before I could ask more questions, Owen appeared beside our table carrying receipts. Emma? I looked up. You were supposed to leave 40 minutes ago. Right? Owen glanced between me and Adrian carefully, then toward Adrian's untouched drink. You look worse every time I see you, Owen muttered casually. Adrian blinked once. That obvious? Yes. Owen slid a stack of papers toward me. Inventory forms. Then quietly. Try sleeping eventually. Both of you. And just like that he walked away again. I stared after him. Does he always talk like a divorce therapist? Pretty much. That made me smile. A real one this time. Adrian noticed immediately. I could tell by the way his expression softened for one dangerous second. Then his phone buzzed sharply again. Another headline notification flashed across the screen. Leaked emails raised questions about Lauren leadership. My stomach dropped. Adrian? I know. You keep saying that like it fixes anything. His frustration cracked suddenly. What exactly do you want me to do, Emma? The sharpness in his voice surprised both of us. Instant regret flashed across his face immediately after. There, I said quietly. There what? You finally sound honest. That stopped him cold. Rain streaked down the windows beside us while silence settled heavily again. Then his shoulders lowered slightly. Not dramatic. Just tired surrender. I'm trying to hold everything together, he admitted. And I'm failing. Simple. Quiet. Brutal. I don't know why that affected me so much. Maybe because powerful men weren't supposed to admit things like that out loud. Or maybe because he looked genuinely ashamed of needing help. You don't have to handle everything alone, I said softly. Something flickered across his face then. Fast. Gone almost immediately. Like he wanted to believe me but didn't fully know how. Then his phone rang again. Victor. Adrian stared at the screen for 3 seconds before declining it. Immediately another call came through. This time. Mother. He declined that one too. My chest tightened strangely. You should answer somebody eventually. I can't. You can't or you won't? His eyes met mine again. And suddenly I realized something terrifying. He genuinely didn't know the difference anymore. An hour later we ended up sitting in the restaurant office sorting through leaked company files because apparently my life had become absurd. I still don't understand why I'm helping a billionaire organize paperwork, I muttered while opening another folder. You alphabetized the receipts voluntarily. That's unrelated. Adrian laughed quietly under his breath. Small sound. Still enough to warm the room unexpectedly. The office lamp cast soft gold light across stacks of contracts and financial reports. Outside, rain kept hammering the city. Inside, something calmer existed between us tonight. Until I opened the wrong folder. At first I barely noticed it. Just photos clipped beside printed emails. Then my eyes caught one familiar face. A woman smiling beside Adrian at some charity event. Beautiful. Elegant. Engagement ring visible. My stomach sank slightly. His ex-fiancée. Below the photo sat printed text messages. I shouldn't have read them. I did anyway. Victor. He'll always choose work first. You know that already. Another message. Victor. You deserve someone who actually sees you. Then another. Months later. Victor. If you leave now, the board will finally realize Adrian isn't stable enough to lead. I stopped breathing. No. No way. My eyes scanned faster. Dozens of messages. Manipulation hidden beneath concern. Carefully planted doubt. My chest tightened hard. Adrian? He looked up immediately. Then saw the folder in my hands. Everything in his expression changed instantly. Emma? Victor did this to her too? Silence. That silence told me more than any explanation could. Oh my God. I looked back at the messages again. Not just business sabotage. Emotional sabotage. Family sabotage. Deliberate destruction. The room suddenly felt smaller. Adrian stood slowly from his chair. She thought he was helping, he said quietly. The way he said it. Not angry. Worse. Destroyed. She trusted him. My throat tightened unexpectedly. And when she left, he swallowed once. Victor made sure the board heard about it before I did. Jesus. I looked at Adrian carefully then. Really carefully. Not the billionaire. Not the controlled version. Just the man sitting under dim office light looking emotionally gutted. How long have you known? I asked softly. That he was involved? Pause. 2 weeks. And you still talk to him? Another bitter laugh. He's my brother. That sentence sounded less like love and more like a wound. I didn't even realize I moved until I was standing beside him, close enough to see exhaustion carved into his face. You don't deserve this, I said quietly. Big mistake. Because something inside him cracked instantly after that. Not loudly. Not dramatically. His eyes closed briefly like the sentence physically hurt him. Then he sat down hard in the chair and covered his face with one hand. I froze. Adrien Laurent, the composed millionaire who survived public humiliation without reacting, was falling apart silently in front of me. I genuinely don't know what I missed, he admitted roughly. His voice sounded uneven now. Human. I kept thinking if I worked harder, fixed things faster, controlled enough variables. You're not a machine. I know that logically. His laugh sounded broken this time. But apparently not emotionally. Something shifted painfully inside my chest watching him like this. Not attraction exactly. Something deeper. More dangerous. Understanding. I reached toward him carefully before I could stop myself. My fingers brushed lightly against his wrist. And Adrien went completely still. The room suddenly felt too quiet. Too close. His eyes lifted slowly toward mine. Red-rimmed now. Guard completely gone. Neither of us moved. Neither of us spoke. Then my phone buzzed violently across the desk. Once. Twice. Again. The sound shattered everything instantly. I grabbed it automatically. Danielle's name flashed across the screen repeatedly, followed by dozens of notifications. My stomach dropped immediately. Something was wrong. I opened social media, and the blood drained from my face. Photos. Me and Adrien outside the restaurant. Me sitting with him at dinner. Me touching his arm. Headline underneath. Waitress chasing millionaire CEO during company scandal? Another post. Insiders claim Emma Harper targeted Adrien Laurent for money. My breathing stopped completely when I saw who uploaded the photos. Danielle. My own cousin. And beneath the post, thousands of comments were already tearing me apart. For the first time, he looked afraid of losing me. I realized that while staring at my phone under my apartment blanket at 3 a.m, thousands of strangers hated me. And Adrien Laurent, the man who barely let himself feel anything publicly, was calling me for the 9th time. I still didn't answer. Not because I was angry. Because I couldn't breathe correctly. Every post looked worse than the last. Gold digger. Attention seeker. Desperate waitress. One video zoomed in on my work shoes while laughing at how cheap they looked beside Adrien's car. Another account posted my apartment building address before the post finally disappeared. I threw my phone across the couch. Art. The screen lit up again instantly. Adrien calling. Again. I covered my face with both hands. This humiliation felt familiar. That was the worst part. Not new pain. Repeated pain. Marcus embarrassed me privately. The internet just upgraded the audience. My chest felt tight enough to crack. I didn't cry. I almost wished I could. Instead, I sat there numb while dawn slowly turned my apartment windows gray. Then my manager called. Fantastic. I answered on the 4th ring. Hey, Richard. Long silence first. Never good. Emma? He started carefully. Immediately bad. I stared at the ceiling. You're firing me? No. Pause. But I need you off schedule for a few days. There it was. Soft rejection still sounded like rejection. The customers keep recording inside the restaurant, he continued quietly. Last night somebody followed one of the waitresses thinking it was you. Shame crawled slowly up my throat. I understand. Emma? It's okay. It's not. I laughed once. A hollow sound. Well, that's comforting. Richard sighed heavily. This attention will die down. I didn't answer. Because we both knew public cruelty rarely disappeared quickly. After hanging up, I finally checked my missed messages. 32 from Adrien. None dramatic. None demanding. Just, are you safe? Please answer. Emma. One simple line near the bottom hit hardest. I shouldn't have let this happen to you. That one stayed on my screen longer than the others. Then another message arrived immediately. Unknown number. You should disappear before this gets worse. Cold rushed through me instantly. I reread it twice. No name attached. No explanation. Just threat disguised as advice. My phone rang again before I could think. Adrien. This time I answered. Silence greeted me first. Then his voice. Oh. Controlled too carefully. Thank God. Something in my chest shifted painfully hearing that. I'm fine, I lied. No, you're not. I closed my eyes briefly. Of course he knew. I can handle comments. Emma? His voice sharpened suddenly. Somebody leaked your address. I saw. You're not staying there tonight. My eyes opened immediately. Excuse me? I already sent security downstairs. What? Don't argue with me right now. There it was. Control. I sat up straighter instantly. You don't get to make decisions for me because rich people panic better. Silence. Then quieter. I'm trying to keep you safe. That's not the same thing. Another silence followed. Heavy. Then unexpectedly. You're right. That answer threw me off balance immediately. Adrian exhaled slowly through the phone. I'm sorry. No defensiveness. No ego. Just apology. Dangerous man. Dangerous because he learned. I hate this, he admitted quietly. What part? Pause. That they touched your life because of me. My throat tightened unexpectedly. Before I could answer, another call beeped through. Danielle. I declined it instantly. Adrian noticed. She keeps contacting you? She keeps pretending public humiliation is constructive criticism. What did she say? I almost lied. Then stopped. She told people I chased you for money because I was tired of being poor. The silence afterward changed instantly. Sharp now. Cold. Not toward me. Toward her. She posted your photos without permission? Yes. And Marcus? I laughed bitterly. Oh, he's enjoying this. That answer seemed to push Adrian somewhere emotionally dangerous. Because when he spoke again, his voice sounded calmer. Too calm. Get dressed, he said. What? I'm picking you up in an hour. No. Yes. I'm not becoming another public spectacle beside you. You won't. You can't promise that. I can promise I won't let you stand alone in it. That sentence hit harder than it should have. I looked down at my shaking hands. And against my better judgment, I whispered, okay. An hour later, I stood in front of my apartment mirror wearing the nicest dress I owned, which suddenly looked painfully average. I almost changed 3 times. Almost canceled twice. Then headlights appeared outside. Too late now. The charity event took place inside one of the most expensive hotels in the city. Christmas lights glowed everywhere. Crystal chandeliers. Designer dresses. People who looked born confident. The second Adrian stepped out beside me, cameras exploded. Flash after flash. Questions thrown aggressively from every direction. Adrian, is this the waitress from the scandal? Are the dating rumors true? Emma, are you financially involved with Lauron Technologies? God. I froze for half a second. Too many lights. Too many eyes. Old panic started crawling back up my spine immediately. Then, Adrian's hand moved lightly against my back. Grounding. Steady. Not possessive. Supportive. We're late, he said calmly beside me. Not answering them. Protecting me from them. That mattered. Inside the ballroom, conversations shifted the second we entered. Whispers everywhere. I caught fragments instantly. That's her. She works at the restaurant. Seriously? My stomach twisted violently. I should leave. Immediately. I leaned toward Adrian quietly. This was a mistake. He looked down at me. No. You don't understand how these people see me. Something changed in his face then. Actually changed. Not anger. Disappointment. Invisible? The word hit directly. Because yes. Exactly that. Before I could answer, an older investor approached us holding champagne. Fake smile. Sharp eyes. Adrian, he greeted smoothly. Then looked at me. Slowly. Dismissively. And this is. I opened my mouth politely. Adrian spoke first. Emma Harper. Simple. Firm. The investor smiled thinly. I've seen the headlines. Of course he had. I straightened slightly anyway. Then you probably know more about my life than I do. The investor laughed once. Condescending. I imagine this attention must be exciting. There it was. That implication. I felt myself shutting down internally already. Same pattern. Different room. Then Adrian said something that changed the entire atmosphere instantly. No, he said calmly. What's exciting is finally trusting someone honest. Silence. Complete silence. Even the investor blinked. Adrian continued before anybody recovered. Emma is the only person in my life who's never asked me for anything. My breath caught. The investor's expression shifted awkwardly. People nearby started listening now. Watching. Adrian looked completely calm beside me. But I noticed the tension in his jaw. The restraint. He meant every word. And somehow that terrified me more than public affection would have. The investor cleared his throat uncomfortably. Well, Then he walked away. Actually walked away. I stared at Adrian in disbelief. You didn't have to do that. Yes, he said quietly. I did. Around us, the atmosphere shifted subtly afterward. Still curious. Still gossiping. But different now. Less mocking. More uncertain. Because Adrian Laurent standing beside a waitress publicly without embarrassment shattered their expectations. Phones still recorded us. But now people whispered differently. That change felt strange. Fragile. Dangerous. Across the ballroom, I suddenly spotted Victor watching us. And the look on his face made my skin go cold. Not jealousy. Rage. Pure controlled rage. The second Adrian noticed him too, tension snapped instantly through his posture. Victor walked toward us slowly. Elegant suit. Sharp smile. Fake calm. You brought her here? He asked Adrian softly. Wrong question. Wrong tone. Adrian's expression hardened immediately. Yes. Victor glanced toward me briefly. Then laughed under his breath. Incredible. Say what you actually mean, Adrian said coldly. Victor's eyes sharpened. You're risking everything over somebody you barely know. I expected Adrian to deny it. Instead he answered quietly. No. I'm risking everything because I finally know who not to trust. Victor went completely still. That landed. Art. People nearby pretended not to listen while obviously listening. Victor smiled tightly afterward. But his eyes looked vicious now. You always make emotional decisions too late, he said. Then he walked away before Adrian could answer. The rest of the event blurred after that. Too much tension. Too many cameras. Too much adrenaline under my skin. By the time we finally escaped outside, snow had started falling again. Soft this time. The city looked quieter at night. More honest. I exhaled slowly into the cold air. You shouldn't have defended me publicly. Adrian stood beside me near the hotel entrance. Hands in his coat pockets. I know. I frowned slightly. Then why did you? He looked at me carefully. Long enough to make my pulse unsteady. Because watching you get destroyed while I stayed silent felt worse. The honesty in that answer nearly ruined me. I looked away first. Big mistake. Because once silence settled between us, everything suddenly felt too close. The snowfall. The city lights. His hand brushing mine accidentally. Or maybe not accidentally. I couldn't tell anymore. You know what scares me? I admitted quietly. Adrian watched me carefully. I'm starting to believe you. His expression shifted immediately. Not victory. Something sadder. Emma? I mean it. I laughed nervously under my breath. Every smart survival instinct I have keeps telling me this ends badly. He stepped closer slowly. Not enough to trap me. Enough to matter. I don't know how to do this correctly, he admitted. That's not reassuring. A small smile touched his mouth briefly. I know. Then silence again. Heavy. Breathing level heavy. His eyes dropped briefly toward my mouth. And suddenly my entire body noticed. Every inch. Every second. I should step back. I didn't. Adrian lifted one hand slowly toward my face like he was giving me time to stop him. I didn't stop him. His fingers brushed lightly against my cheek. Warm despite the cold air. Then he kissed me. Soft at first. Careful. Like he wasn't fully convinced I was real. My brain stopped functioning immediately. Not dramatic fireworks. Worse. Relief. Like something inside me finally exhaled after months of surviving. I kissed him back before fear could interrupt. And the second I did, Adrian completely lost composure. One hand tightened against my waist instantly. The kiss deepened. Messier now. Honest. Years of restraint breaking apart quietly between us beneath Christmas lights and falling snow. When we finally pulled apart, both of us breathing unevenly, he rested his forehead briefly against mine. And whispered the sentence that destroyed everything again. There's something I never told you about Marcus. He didn't stop me when I stepped back. That's what hurt first. Not the confession. Not the cold air. Not even the fact that my chest suddenly felt hollow after kissing him. It was the look on Adrian's face when he realized he'd said too much too late. Like he already knew I would leave. What do you mean? I asked slowly. You knew Marcus? Snow kept falling around us. Soft. Silent. Cruel somehow. Adrian looked exhausted instantly. The kind of exhaustion that comes from holding ugly truths too long. I didn't know him personally, he said carefully. Then why say his name like that? Pause. Too long. My stomach dropped before he even answered. When the blind date situation happened, he admitted quietly, I started investigating everyone connected to the restaurant. Something cold moved through me immediately. No. No, no, no. I stared at him. You investigated me? It wasn't like that. That answer made my entire body tense. Because people always said that right before the worst part. Adrian stepped closer slightly. I thought someone inside the restaurant helped organize the setup. I laughed once. Small. Disbelieving. So you approached me because you thought I was involved? No. Too fast. What? Not full lie. Still enough. I approached you because you overheard something that night, he corrected quickly. And because Marcus had indirect ties to people connected with Victor. Everything inside me went completely still. The kiss still lingered on my mouth. That made this worse. Much worse. You used me. His expression changed instantly. No. You literally investigated my life. I was trying to protect my company. And what about me? Silence. God. That silence. I stepped back farther. Suddenly every memory twisted into something ugly. The conversations. The questions. The way he kept returning to the restaurant. Had any of it been real at the beginning? Or had I just been another lead? Another suspicious person he needed information from? Adrian ran one hand through his hair roughly. I stopped caring about the investigation almost immediately. That's supposed to help? It's the truth. I shook my head slowly. You should have told me earlier. I know. You let me trust you. I know. That broke something open inside me. Not sadness. Humiliation. Again. Always humiliation. I laughed under my breath. Except it sounded sharp this time. Wow. Emma? No, it's actually impressive. I folded my arms tightly against the cold. You really know how to make people feel stupid. His jaw tightened immediately. That's not fair. I stared at him in disbelief. Not fair. For the first time since meeting Adrian, anger fully cracked through his calm too. I was betrayed by my own family, manipulated publicly, and surrounded by people lying to me for months. And somehow that gave you permission to investigate me behind my back? That's not what I'm saying. Then what are you saying? Neither of us spoke for a second. Snow collected slowly on Adrian's dark coat. His voice dropped lower when he answered. I'm saying I didn't expect you to matter. There it was. That line should have sounded romantic. Instead it destroyed me. Because it confirmed everything. I mattered later. Not at first. At first I was just useful. My throat tightened painfully. But this time? I refused to cry in front of him. I need to go home. Emma, please. That word almost stopped me. Almost. Then he reached for my hand lightly. Instinctively. And I flinched away. The look on his face afterward nearly broke my resolve. Not anger. Worse. Actual regret. So, I walked away. Fast. Before he could explain further. Before I did something weak like forgive him immediately just because he looked devastated. My phone started ringing before I even reached the corner. Adrian. I declined it. Then another call came immediately. Then another. By the fifth one, my hands shook hard enough to annoy me. So I turned the phone off completely. Silence. Finally. Except my brain refused to cooperate. For 3 straight days I ignored everything. Calls. Messages. Knocking at my apartment door. Owen texted twice. Adrian texted 31 times. Not one message sounded defensive. That somehow made me angrier. I didn't want sincerity anymore. I wanted distance. On day 2, I sat inside a tiny coffee shop with my laptop open but untouched while rain streaked down the windows. Across the room, 2 girls whispered while staring at me. One finally pulled out her phone. Recognition. Great. I grabbed my coffee and left before they could approach me. Outside, cold wind hit my face sharply. I kept walking anyway. Faster. Like movement could outrun embarrassment. By the time I reached my apartment building, Danielle waited outside smoking nervously. I almost turned around immediately. Emma? No. Please. No. I kept walking. She grabbed my wrist lightly. Victor paid me. Everything stopped. The city noise faded instantly beneath the pounding in my ears. I turned slowly. What? Danielle looked awful. Mascara smudged. Hands shaking slightly. He paid me to keep you distracted, she admitted quickly. To keep feeding information back if you found out anything about Adrian. I stared at her blankly. The words barely processed. No, I said quietly. It started small. She sounded panicked now. He just wanted updates. He said Adrian was dangerous and unstable and... You took money from him? Her eyes filled immediately. I needed help. I laughed suddenly. A sharp, ugly sound. Wow. Emma, I didn't know things would get this bad online. You posted my photos. I thought. You thought what? My voice cracked louder than expected. That humiliating me would somehow fix your own life? Danielle flinched. Good. For once, somebody else should feel uncomfortable instead of me. He manipulated everybody, she whispered desperately. Marcus too. That hit differently. I froze. What? Danielle looked down. Victor connected Marcus to investors months ago. Cold flooded through my chest slowly. No. No way. Marcus knew. I don't know how much. She started crying now. Actually crying. I swear I didn't understand the whole situation. I stared at her silently. And something strange happened. Nothing. No emotional collapse. No devastation. No tears. Just clarity. Pure brutal clarity. Every betrayal suddenly connected together like shattered glass finally forming a picture. Marcus. Danielle. The blind date. The leaks. Victor. Control. Manipulation everywhere. I pulled my wrist gently from Danielle's hand. You know the worst part? I asked quietly. She looked at me hopefully. Like maybe forgiveness still existed here. I actually believed you loved me. Her face crumpled instantly. I felt nothing. That scared me a little. Not numbness. Precision. Like my emotions finally sharpened into something useful. I'm sorry, Danielle whispered. I nodded once. Then walked past her without another word. This version of silence felt different. Not weakness. Decision. That night, I reopened every article, every leaked photo, every company report connected to Lauron Technologies. Hours passed. Coffee turned cold beside me. My apartment stayed dark except for laptop light reflecting across my walls. And for the first time, I stopped reading like a victim. I started reading like somebody hunting patterns. Victor wasn't careful emotionally, only publicly. That mattered. By midnight, my notebook filled with timelines and names. Connections. Payments. Fake accounts. Then finally, one email attachment changed everything. A leaked board document. Buried near the bottom sat evidence of offshore transfers connected to Victor's private consulting group. Illegal ones. Not technically hidden well enough either. My pulse slowed instead of speeding up. Interesting. Very interesting. My phone buzzed suddenly beside me. Adrian, please let me explain in person. I stared at the message for a long second, then locked the screen again without answering. Because right now, my focus had changed. This wasn't about heartbreak anymore. It wasn't even about Adrian. Victor destroyed people for power. And everybody around him kept surviving quietly instead of ending it. Maybe that was the real problem. I looked back at the documents spread across my floor. Evidence everywhere now. Dangerous evidence. The smart decision would be walking away completely. Protect myself. Disappear. But another feeling had replaced fear this week. And honestly, it felt terrifyingly good. I opened my laptop camera slowly. Created a blank anonymous upload account. Then attached the first document. My finger hovered over the publish button while rain hammered against the windows outside. One click. That was all it would take. And for the first time in my life, I realized I wasn't scared of burning everything down anymore. I smiled when he lied to me. That scared him more than anger ever could. Elena noticed it first. Not the fake smile. The change underneath it. You don't react like before anymore, she said quietly across the cafe table. Rain tapped softly against the windows behind her. People moved around us carrying coffee and shopping bags while we discussed financial fraud like it was normal conversation. Maybe that alone proved how much my life had changed. I closed my laptop halfway. Before? You used to apologize before speaking. That landed harder than expected. Because she was right. I used to soften every sentence like I needed permission to exist comfortably. Now, I looked at offshore accounts at 2 a.m. while planning how to destroy powerful men publicly. Interesting character development. Elena slid another folder across the table carefully. Paper copies. Smart. No emails, she murmured. Victor's monitoring internal systems harder now. I opened the folder slowly. Transfer records. Private payments. Board signatures. Some forged. Some terrifyingly real. My pulse stayed calm while reading. That still surprised me sometimes. You kept all this hidden? I asked. Elena looked exhausted. Not physically. Morally. I kept telling myself I needed more proof. Did you? She hesitated. No. Honesty finally. Her fingers tightened slightly around her coffee cup. I stayed quiet because Loron Technologies became my entire life. I thought if the company collapsed, I'd disappear with it. I understood that feeling more than I wanted to. Not the money part, the survival part. I used to think that too, I admitted. She looked up. That losing one person meant losing yourself? I nodded once. Silence settled briefly between us. Not awkward. Sure. Then Elena leaned closer. Victor's panicking. That got my attention immediately. How bad? He fired 2 executives yesterday. Why? He thinks somebody inside the company is leaking information. Technically true. My phone buzzed face down beside my coffee. I already knew who it was. Adrian. Again. Elena noticed my expression immediately. You still haven't answered him properly? I answer business questions. And personal ones? I picked up my coffee calmly. I suddenly lose signal. She laughed quietly despite herself. First time I'd heard that sound from her. Then her expression softened carefully. He misses you. I stared out the rainy window instead of responding. Because hearing that still affected me. Annoyingly. Dangerously. I'm not doing this because of him, I said finally. I know. Good. But you still look at your phone every time he calls. I hated that she noticed everything. My phone buzzed again. Adrian, Victor scheduled a board dinner tonight. You need to stay away from it. I stared at the message, then typed back immediately for the first time in days. Me, you don't get to decide that for me anymore. 3 dots appeared instantly. Stopped. Appeared again. Then finally. Adrian, I know. I'm still asking. My chest tightened strangely. Not pain. Conflict. Which was honestly more irritating. That night, I stood in my apartment wearing black heels I almost talked myself out of buying last month. The old me would have worried about looking expensive. Now, I cared more about looking unshakable. Big difference. I checked my reflection once before leaving. Not because I doubted myself. Because I barely recognized myself anymore. And honestly, I liked her better. The company dinner took place inside a private rooftop restaurant overlooking the city. Floor-to-ceiling windows. Gold lighting. Rich people pretending corruption didn't exist. Classic atmosphere. The second I entered beside Elena, conversations shifted subtly. Eyes moved toward me immediately. Recognition spread table by table. Interesting. Weeks ago, attention made me want to disappear. Tonight, I let them look. Victor stood near the center of the room speaking with investors. Perfect suit. Perfect smile. Perfect liar. Then he noticed me. And for one tiny second, his expression cracked. Fear. Gone instantly afterward. But I saw it. That mattered. Adrian stood across the room near the windows. The moment his eyes found mine, everything else faded briefly. God, that still happened. Dangerous. He looked tired. Actually tired. Like sleep stopped visiting him recently. Part of me hated noticing. Another part hated caring. He started walking toward me slowly. Victor intercepted first. Of course he did. Well, Victor said loudly enough for nearby tables to hear. This evening just became more interesting. I smiled politely. Funny. I was thinking the same thing. His eyes narrowed slightly. He wasn't used to resistance from me yet. Good. Victor lifted a champagne glass casually. I'm surprised security allowed random internet celebrities inside. Several people nearby laughed quietly. Olmi would have frozen. Me? I took a slow sip of water first. Then smiled again. Calmly. That's interesting, I said. Victor's smile flickered slightly. What is? The confidence. Silence spread subtly around us. He laughed once. Confidence. Yes. I tilted my head slightly. You're under federal financial review and still insulting waitresses publicly. That level of denial is honestly impressive. The room went dead quiet. Completely. Victor's expression didn't change immediately. That was the scary part. Control. Years of practiced control. What are you talking about? He asked softly. I reached into my bag slowly. Every eye in the room followed the movement. Adrian started toward us again now. Fast. Concern visible immediately. Too late. I placed a printed document directly onto the nearby table. Bank transfers highlighted clearly across the page. Victor looked down once. And for the first time since meeting him, he lost composure. Barely. Tiny crack. But enough. You should really stop moving money through consulting shells connected to your personal accounts, I said conversationally. Nobody breathed. One investor grabbed the paper quickly. Another moved closer. Questions exploded instantly afterward. What is this? Victor. Are these authentic? Victor looked at me with open fury now. Not controlled anymore. Pure rage. You think you understand what you're interfering with? His voice came out low. Threatening. I didn't move. Didn't flinch. Didn't shrink. No, I answered honestly. I think I finally understand exactly who you are. That landed. Art. Victor stepped closer suddenly. Adrian appeared between us immediately. Fast enough to shock me. Don't, Adrian warned quietly. Victor laughed bitterly. This is because of her? No, Adrian said. His voice sounded deadly calm. This is because of you. The room erupted into chaos afterward. Phones out. Investors arguing. Executives whispering frantically. Elena grabbed my arm lightly. We need to leave. Probably smart. But I couldn't stop staring at Victor. Because for the first time, the powerful man in expensive clothes didn't look untouchable anymore. He looked cornered. And cornered people became dangerous. As Elena pulled me toward the exit, Adrian caught my wrist gently. Not controlling. Just enough to stop me briefly. His eyes searched mine carefully. You should have warned me. Interesting. Not, you shouldn't have done it. Not, why would you risk this? Just concern. I looked at him quietly. You would have tried stopping me. He didn't deny it. That silence almost hurt more. Around us, voices kept rising louder inside the restaurant. Victor was already losing control publicly. Exactly what he feared most. Adrian looked exhausted again suddenly. You're not safe now. I wasn't safe before either. Emma? No. I pulled my hand back gently. I spent too much of my life waiting for powerful people to save me from other powerful people. His jaw tightened. Because he knew I meant him too. That's not what I wanted. I know. And I did know. That was the problem. I believed his intentions now. Just not enough to trust them completely yet. Elena called my name near the elevators urgently. I stepped backward slowly. Adrian looked like he wanted to say something else. Something bigger. But people started crowding around Victor again. Questions. Accusations. Panic. The empire was cracking in real time. And somehow, watching it happen didn't make me feel smaller anymore. It made me realize how afraid these people always were beneath the money and power. Fear just looked more expensive on them. Inside the elevator, Elena exhaled shakily. Oh my God. I stared at my reflection in the mirrored walls. Calm face. Steady breathing. No panic. No regret. Just adrenaline humming quietly under my skin. Then my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. I almost ignored it. Almost. Instead I answered carefully. Hello. Heavy breathing greeted me first. Then Victor's voice. Cold. Furious. You have no idea what you just started. The elevator doors opened slowly. I stepped out into the lobby lights. And smiled for the first time all night. Neither do you. I thought he came back to fix everything. I was wrong. He came back to destroy what was left of his family instead. The restaurant rooftop sounded like a war zone behind the closed elevator doors. Voices shouting. Phones ringing. Investors panicking loud enough to echo into the hallway. And somehow, in the middle of all that chaos, my own breathing sounded louder. Elena grabbed my arm before I could walk farther. Wait. I turned back. What? Her eyes flicked toward the restaurant entrance nervously. They're calling an emergency board session upstairs. So Victor's trying to save himself. I almost laughed. Good luck with that. My phone vibrated again. 3 missed calls from unknown reporters already. 1 text from Danielle. Danielle, please tell me you're safe. Ignored. Then another message appeared immediately after. Adrian, don't leave yet. Simple. No pressure. Still dangerous. I stared at the words longer than I should have. Elena noticed. You're going back up there. It wasn't a question. I exhaled slowly. Yes. Emma? I need to see how this ends. Truthfully, I needed to see Adrian. Even after everything. That realization annoyed me deeply. 20 minutes later, the private board floor looked completely different from the glamorous dinner downstairs. No music. No champagne. Just tension. Men in expensive suits arguing in sharp whispers while assistants rushed between offices carrying documents. Fear moved fast in rich spaces. Interesting thing to witness. The second I stepped out of the elevator, conversations shifted immediately. Eyes landed on me. Not mockingly this time. Carefully. Like people suddenly understood I wasn't decoration in this story anymore. Victor stood near the glass conference room speaking aggressively to two board members. Then he saw me. His entire face hardened instantly. There she is, he snapped loudly. Several heads turned immediately. Adrian emerged from the opposite hallway at the exact same moment. And the look on his face when he saw me there. God. Relief. Actual visible relief. That should not have affected me anymore. Unfortunately, my chest disagreed. Victor laughed bitterly. This is unbelievable. Nobody answered him. That seemed to make him angrier. She manipulated this entire situation, he continued, pointing directly at me now. You really think some waitress uncovered international fraud alone? The room stayed silent. Not supportive silence. Worse. Skeptical silence. Toward him. Victor noticed too. She targeted Adrian from the beginning. He pushed harder. For money. Attention. Revenge. Still nothing. One older board member finally spoke quietly. Victor. There are verified financial records. Victor ignored him completely. Because panic had finally started eating through his control. He stepped closer toward me. You think you won something? I looked at him calmly. No. That answer caught him off guard. I think you lost control. That landed directly. His jaw tightened immediately. Adrian moved between us again before Victor could answer. Not aggressively. Instinctively. Like protecting me happened automatically now. Victor noticed that too. And suddenly, his anger shifted toward Adrian completely. Seriously? Victor laughed harshly. You're choosing her over your own family? The entire room went still again. Adrian didn't answer immediately. That silence felt dangerous. Heavy. Yours heavy. Then finally. You stopped being family a long time ago. Victor stared at him like he'd been slapped. Honestly? Maybe he had. Not physically. Emotionally. Which looked worse somehow. You think you're innocent? Victor shot back. Dad destroyed himself building this company and you spent years acting too superior to notice. Adrian's expression changed instantly at the mention of their father. Not anger. Pain. Real pain. Raw enough to make my stomach tighten. Victor kept going anyway. He trusted you with everything. And you betrayed him, Adrian said quietly. Victor scoffed. I saved this company. No, Adrian replied. You sold it piece by piece. The room stayed completely silent around them now. Nobody interrupted. Nobody moved. Because suddenly this wasn't about business anymore. It was two brothers bleeding old damage in public. Victor laughed again. But this time it sounded unstable. You always blamed me because you needed somebody to hate after Dad died. Adrian flinched. Tiny movement. Still devastating. I suddenly realized something awful. They had never grieved properly. Not once. They just turned pain into competition and called it survival. Victor's voice lowered sharply. You disappeared into work while I handled everything. I was 23. First crack in Adrian's composure. His voice roughened unexpectedly. I was trying to keep us alive. That sentence hit the room hard. Because suddenly Adrian Laurent didn't sound powerful. He sounded tired. Human. Victor stared at him coldly. You think Dad would have respected what you became? Adrian laughed once under his breath. No humor in it. I stopped caring what he would have respected the day he taught us love was conditional. Silence. Complete silence. Even Victor looked stunned. I felt something painful twist inside my chest watching Adrian stand there trying not to fall apart emotionally in front of people who only respected strength. And for the first time, I understood how lonely his life actually was. Not the billionaire loneliness magazines romanticized. Real isolation. The kind where vulnerability becomes dangerous. Victor looked away first. Interesting. Adrian didn't chase the moment either. He just looked exhausted suddenly. One board member finally cleared his throat awkwardly. We need legal counsel present immediately. Another nodded quickly. Agreed. Everything exploded into movement after that. Executives talking over each other. Phones ringing again. Victor started arguing with attorneys instantly. And in the middle of all that chaos, Adrian just stood there staring at the floor like he forgot where he was for a second. I moved before thinking. Adrian. His eyes lifted toward me immediately. Too fast. Like some part of him had been waiting for my voice specifically. You should go home, I said quietly. He looked at me for a long moment. Then shook his head once. I don't want to be alone tonight. That honesty nearly wrecked me. Because it wasn't manipulative. Not romantic either. Just true. Later, after midnight, the city looked frozen beneath the penthouse windows. Snow covered everything quietly. Adrian stood near the balcony doors holding untouched whiskey. I sat across the room pretending not to study him. Neither of us spoke for several minutes. Strangely comfortable. Strangely dangerous. Finally he broke the silence first. I meant what I said earlier. I looked up carefully. Which part? His mouth almost smiled briefly. About losing you. My chest tightened instantly. Adrian stared down into his glass. When the investigation started collapsing, I thought the company failing would destroy me. He laughed quietly under his breath. Turns out watching you walk away hurt worse. I didn't answer immediately. Couldn't. Because part of me believed him completely now. And part of me still remembered every betrayal before him. That doesn't magically fix trust, I said carefully. I know. No argument. No pressure. Just acceptance. Adrian sat down slowly across from me. Tired eyes. Wrinkled sleeves. No billionaire mask left tonight. I handled everything in my life like a problem to solve, he admitted quietly. Including people. That honesty hurt more than excuses would have. I noticed. A small painful smile touched his face briefly. I know. Silence settled again. Soft this time. Then unexpectedly. I almost resigned after Christmas. The voice came from behind us. Elena. I turned immediately. What? Adrian closed his eyes briefly like he already knew she'd say it. Elena stepped farther into the room carefully. He already signed preliminary transfer documents. I stared at Adrian in confusion. You were leaving the company? He didn't answer right away, which terrified me more. Finally. I was tired. Simple words. Still devastating. Elena looked emotional suddenly. He told me none of this was fixable anymore, she admitted quietly. Not the company. Not his family. Not himself. My throat tightened painfully. Adrian looked away toward the snow-covered city. And for the first time since meeting him, he didn't look like a millionaire. He looked like a man who had quietly given up before anybody noticed. I wasn't leaving him. I was making sure he lost me first. That line stayed in my head for days. Not because it sounded powerful, but because I finally understood why people like Victor destroy everything before they're destroyed. And why Adrian almost did the same thing. I stood in Elena's office while she replayed the televised interview for the third time. Victor's face filled the screen. No arrogance this time. No performance. Just exhaustion. I was wrong, he said directly into the camera. Not strategically. Not legally. Personally. The interviewer visibly paused. So you're admitting wrongdoing? Victor didn't dodge it. Yes. That alone made the entire room feel smaller. I crossed my arms slowly. Is this real? I asked. Elena didn't answer immediately. That hesitation said everything. I don't know, she finally admitted. But it doesn't look staged. On screen Victor continued. I didn't just target my brother's company, he said quietly. I targeted his relationships because I was afraid he'd never need me again. That sentence hit differently. Even I felt it. The interviewer leaned forward. Are you saying this was personal jealousy? Victor exhaled once. Yes. No hesitation. No legal filter. Just collapse. I watched him become someone everyone trusted, he continued. And I became someone everyone tolerated. My chest tightened slightly. That wasn't a villain speech. That was a breakdown. Elena muted the screen suddenly. Public opinion is shifting fast, she said. Toward him? Toward confusion. That sounded accurate. Because nothing about this situation fit into simple categories anymore. Victor wasn't suddenly good. But he also wasn't cartoon evil anymore. Just broken in a different direction. My phone vibrated. Adrian, can we talk? I stared at it for a long moment. Didn't answer. Not yet. Elena watched me carefully. You're thinking about him differently too, she said. I didn't deny it. Because I was. Which annoyed me more than anything else. I used to think he destroyed everything on purpose, I admitted quietly. And now. I looked away toward the window. Now I think he destroyed things because he didn't know how not to. Elena nodded slowly. That's what makes it complicated. No. That's what made it dangerous. Because understanding someone didn't automatically make them safe. Later that evening I finally went outside alone. Cold air hit my face immediately. The city looked calmer after the chaos. Like it forgot everything too quickly. My phone buzzed again. Adrian, I'm not asking for forgiveness. Just 5 minutes. I stared at it while walking. Then stopped. Typed. Me where? The reply came instantly. Penthouse. Of course. somewhere high above everything. Like always. When I arrived, Adrian was already waiting near the window. Same place. Different energy. He didn't turn immediately when I entered. That alone told me he was thinking too much. Finally, he spoke without facing me. You didn't answer for 2 days. I was busy. That's not true. I stepped inside slowly. No, I admitted. It's not. Silence followed. Not uncomfortable. Just heavy. He finally turned. And I noticed it immediately. No mask. No controlled billionaire expression. Just fatigue. Human fatigue. You saw Victor's interview? He asked. Yes. His jaw tightened slightly. I didn't expect him to admit it publicly. Neither did anyone else. Adrian walked a few steps closer to the window again. Growing up, he said quietly, I thought love was something you earned by being useful. I didn't respond, because that sounded familiar in a way I didn't like. He continued anyway. My father only praised results. My mother only stayed when things looked stable. Victor learned to fight for attention. I learned to disappear into work. His voice lowered. And I thought that was normal. I shifted slightly. That's not love, I said softly. I know. Another pause. Then he added quieter. It took losing you to understand that. My breath caught slightly. Not because it sounded romantic. Because it sounded honest. Too honest. I looked at him carefully. You keep saying that like I was already yours. That made him stop. Finally. Adrian turned fully now. I don't know what I'm allowed to call you, he admitted. That was new. No control. No certainty. Just uncertainty. I felt my walls shift slightly. Dangerously. I'm not an option you default to when everything collapses, I said carefully. I know. Then why ask me here? His eyes didn't leave mine. Because I don't trust myself to fix this alone anymore. That sentence landed differently. Not manipulation. Not pressure. Admission. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed again. Elena calling. I answered. Hello. Her voice was tense. You need to see this. Seconds later, she sent a link. Live news broadcast. Victor Laurent has stepped down from all executive positions pending investigation. I stared at the screen. Then read further. But there's something else, Elena added quickly. He requested a private statement be released after resignation. I opened it, and my stomach dropped slightly. Because Victor wasn't just resigning. He was naming names. People higher than him. Board members. Investors. Systems. A chain. A collapse. Adrian noticed my expression immediately. What is it? I hesitated. Then turned the screen toward him. He read silently. Once. Twice. Then something subtle shifted in his face. Not shock. Recognition. He's not just confessing, Adrian said quietly. I looked at him. What then? Adrian's voice lowered. He's exposing everyone before they silence him. Silence spread between us. Heavy again. Outside the window, the city lights flickered like nothing was happening. But everything was happening. I finally asked the question I didn't want to ask. Is he doing this because he's sorry? Pause. Or because he's scared? Adrian didn't answer immediately. Then, both. That answer changed the room temperature. Because it meant Victor wasn't fixed. He was collapsing. And collapsed people did unpredictable things. My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. One message. Tell Adrian he's next. I looked up slowly. Adrian saw my expression immediately. Something in him tightened. What? I didn't answer. Not right away. Because for the first time in a long time, I wasn't sure if we were watching an ending, or the beginning of something worse. I didn't come here to be chosen anymore. That thought hits me the moment I stand outside the restaurant. The same lights. Same glass door. Same place where I once believed I didn't matter. My phone keeps buzzing in my pocket. I don't check it. I already know it's Adrian. I almost turn back. Almost. But my feet don't move. Inside, laughter spills out like nothing ever broke here. Like no one ever fell apart in the corners of this place. I push the door open. Cold air follows me in. And suddenly everything feels too familiar. The restaurant manager notices me first. His face changes like he's seeing a ghost. Hey, you're back. I nod once. I'm not here for work. That surprises him. I can tell. Because I used to be the girl who asked for extra shifts. The girl who apologized for existing in tight spaces. Not anymore. I sit near the same window where everything started. The same frozen glass. Same view. But I'm not that girl anymore. My phone vibrates again. Adrian. I don't answer. Another message comes. Please don't shut me out tonight. My fingers tighten around the phone. I still don't reply. Because I'm trying to understand something important. If I answer him, do I go back to who I was? Or do I finally stay here, on my own side? Footsteps stop near my table. I don't look up immediately. I knew you'd come here. His voice. Adrian, come. Careful. Like he's afraid one wrong word will break something already shattered. I finally look at him. He looks tired in a way money can't fix. You always do that, I say. He blinks. Do what? Find me like I'm still something you can reach. Silence stretches between us. Not painful. Just real. He sits down without asking. That used to annoy me. Now it just feels familiar. I wasn't looking for control, he says quietly. I was looking for survival. I laugh once. Not soft. Not kind. Funny. That sounds like what everyone says after they hurt someone. His jaw tightens. I deserve that. That answer surprises me. Because the old Adrian would have defended himself. Built walls. Turned truth into strategy. This one doesn't. My phone buzzes again. Elena. A message flashes. It's done. Victor is gone from the board. I don't react. Not joy. Not revenge. Not relief. Just emptiness. Because I realize something terrifying. Winning doesn't feel like I thought it would. Adrian watches me. You saw it? I nod. And, he asks. I pause. I don't feel anything. That sentence lands heavier than I expected. He leans back like he's processing me instead of speaking to me. I thought revenge would fix everything, he says. It doesn't, I reply. Pause. Then softer. It just changes who you are while you're getting it. His eyes don't leave mine. You're not the same girl from that night. No, I say. I'm not. Silence again. But this time it's not distance. It's understanding trying to form something fragile between us. Then he speaks. I almost left after Christmas. I don't move. Why didn't you? His fingers tighten slightly on the table. Because I realized something worse than failure. He stops. Swallows it. Losing everything didn't scare me. His eyes lift to mine. Losing you did. Something inside me shifts. Not soft. Not safe. Real. But I don't let it pull me back yet. Adrian, I say slowly, you don't get to say things like that and think they erase everything before it. I know, he whispers. That honesty hurts more than excuses ever did. The door opens behind us. Cold air again. A moment later, Elena appears near the counter, hesitating. She looks at me first. Then Adrian. Then she says something that changes the air completely. I shouldn't be the one telling you this, but if I don't, it will stay hidden forever. My stomach tightens. Adrian notices instantly. What is it? He asks. Elena hesitates. Then speaks. He didn't almost leave after Christmas. Pause. My breath slows. He already signed the resignation papers. Silence drops. Heavy. Final. Then she finishes. He just never submitted them, because he was waiting to see if he would still stay if he stopped fighting for everything else. Adrian doesn't look at me. Not immediately. Like he can't survive my reaction yet. I finally understand something I didn't want to see before. He wasn't just fighting the world. He was deciding whether he deserved to stay in it at all. And I'm standing in the middle of that decision. My voice comes out low. So what happens now? He finally looks at me. And what he says next doesn't sound like control. It sounds like surrender. That depends. Pause. If you still want me in your life, or if I already lost the right to be there. My heart doesn't answer quickly this time. Because for the first time, I'm not choosing between him and pain. I'm choosing between him and myself. And I still don't know which one I trust more. I didn't come back here to be saved, I whisper. I came back to decide who I stopped becoming. Snow hits the glass like it remembers me. Like it knows I once stood here shaking, watching everything fall apart without saying a word. But tonight is different. Tonight no one is laughing at him. And no one is laughing at me. I watch Adrian before I speak. He sits across from me like he's afraid I might disappear if he moves too fast. My phone is silent for once. Even the world feels quieter. You're really here, he says. Not a question. More like he still can't believe it. I exhale slowly. I didn't come back to run. That lands between us. A waiter passes. Neither of us reacts. Feels strange. This place used to be noise, pressure, survival. Now it feels like something else. Something unfinished. I thought you wouldn't come at all, he says. I almost didn't, I answer honestly. That makes him look down for a second. Like honesty still confuses him. My hands rest on the table. No shaking this time. No fear hiding behind silence. I'll join the foundation, I say. He looks up immediately. But not because I need saving, I add. Pause. I'll join because I want to build something that actually matters. That line changes the air. Not heavy. Just real. Adrian leans back slightly. Like he's letting it sink in instead of controlling it. That's different from when I first met you, he says. I know. A small silence. Then I add. Back then I thought surviving was the goal. His eyes stay on me. And now? I don't hesitate. Now I think becoming someone I respect is the goal. Something soft shifts in his expression. Not relief. Not victory. Understanding. I didn't know how to be around people, he says quietly. I don't interrupt. He keeps going anyway. Everything always felt like negotiation. Power. Risk. Loss. A breath. Then you showed up, and didn't treat me like a system. I almost smile at that. Almost. You weren't easy to deal with, I say. A faint sound leaves him, something between a laugh and regret. I know. Another pause. Then he says it. I didn't become human because I wanted to. My chest tightens slightly. I became it because I couldn't stay the same around you. That sentence doesn't sound like manipulation. It sounds like truth he didn't plan to say. I look out the window. Snow keeps falling. Soft. Unstoppable. You still think I'm fragile? I ask. He shakes his head immediately. No. Pause. Now I'm afraid you're stronger than me. That surprises me. Not because it flatters me. Because it feels honest. For a while neither of us speaks. It's not awkward. Just full. Like everything we avoided for months is finally sitting on the table with us. I used to think betrayal defined me, I say quietly. His eyes lift. It doesn't anymore. I swallow once. Now I think it only explained where I started. Adrian's voice is softer now. And where do you think you are now? I don't answer right away. Because for the first time I actually feel the answer forming instead of hiding. I'm not at the beginning, I say finally. A breath. I'm not at the end either. My fingers press lightly into the table. I'm somewhere I didn't think I'd reach. He studies me like he's seeing me clearly for the first time. Not as someone he lost. Not as someone he needs. Just me. Then he says, I used to believe love had conditions. I stay still. That if I failed enough times, I didn't deserve it. Pause. But you didn't leave when I failed. His voice drops. You just stopped letting me define you. That hits differently. Because it's not romance. It's recognition. And it scares me a little how accurate it is. I don't know what this is yet, I admit. Honest. Unarmored. He nods slowly. Neither do I. No pressure. No urgency. Just truth sitting between us. Midnight approaches without either of us noticing. The restaurant lights feel softer now. Outside, snow thickens the world into silence. My phone lights up briefly. I don't check it. I already know it doesn't matter anymore. Not tonight. I stand slowly. Adrian looks up immediately, like he's afraid this is the ending again. But it isn't. Not this time. I'm still learning who I am, I say. He nods. I know. Pause. Then I add. But I'm not the girl who waits to be chosen anymore. He doesn't respond right away. And for the first time I don't need him to. Because something inside me already stopped waiting a long time ago. I just didn't realize it until now. I turn toward the door. Snowlight spills inside as I step forward. Behind me his voice comes quietly. Are you leaving? I stop. Not afraid. Just aware. Then I turn slightly. No, I say. A small breath. I'm deciding where I stay. I walk out into the snow. Cold hits my face like truth. And for the first time in my life, I don't feel like I'm surviving a story. I feel like I'm choosing one. My phone buzzes one last time in my pocket. This time I finally look. And the message isn't from Adrian.